All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to No Final Bell. Of course, thank you for tuning into the Slammiversary episode. We do really appreciate that, as you know, it came out at 12, and this we're doing our main episode of just all straight AEW with Dynamite, Collision, and Battle of the Belt 7. So let's get on to the very first match of the night as Chris Jericho faces off against Commander. Um, we all know exactly how who Commander is, and
Yeah,
this is the kind of competitor he is. But this is the first time he's going up against Chris Jericho, and what a great match! What a great way to showcase Commander against the GOAT. Um, but fortunately, was not able to get the victory as Chris Jericho showcases why he is called the greatest of all time and wins. And then after the match, of course, Don Callis comes out saying they are a couple of gods. Chris says he still has all of his hair and Don Callis does not. They were showcasing Don's showing up there when both of them were a team back when Don and Chris Jericho both had the hair.
we're coming up in the business.
And with their mentor,
Yeah, I don't remember his name.
yeah, and then with their mentor, said they should always stay together. And then Don Callis said they went their separate ways. And Callis says bad news knows what Chris Jericho's answer should be. Will Chris Jericho join the Don Callis family? Signs are pointing towards it. We'll keep it going now, but signs are pointing towards it. Personally, I think yes.
Yeah,
I think he's going to join the Don Callis family and and be a heel, even though technically he still is one in itself. But I think he's going to be even more of a heel and join John Callis's family. So the answer to that is I think yes.
yeah, I agree.
So we got to the next little action here is
Jack
Jack
Perry.
Perry and Hook try to beat each other down, and officially we'll get their match later tonight for the FTW Championship. Thoughts? Well, I kind of figured that was going to happen. That on Blood and Guts is you're going to get Jack Perry and Hook facing off for the FTW Championship. Um, Now the real question is this the time where we're going to see a new FTW champion?
I
Honestly,
don't think so.
you don't think so?
No.
I think he's held it long enough. I think Hook is
Well,
gonna.
yeah, but it's not about how long you hold it
I know.
before,
True.
but to be fair, it's kind of a trend that before the end of the month of July, there's always a new FTW champion or whatever it is, because before the end of July, Ricky Starks became FTW champion in 2021. Then before the end of July last year, Hook became FTW
That's what I'm
champion.
saying.
So
I'm
I
thinking it's gonna
mean,
be Jack Perry's time to win some sort of championship
they
in
might keep
AEW.
tradition.
Even though it's not a recognized championship in
Yeah,
AEW, I think it's still something that is gonna help him up, help him out in the long run. I think he's gonna be your new FTW champion. I think Hook's time as FTW champion is over. I think he's off to bigger and better things. Even though if you look at Ricky Starks and you look at Brian Cage and um, whoever else held
yeah,
the FTW.
Sabu, Taz.
Well, no, if you more so look at it for
Oh,
AEW's
for
sake,
AEW,
they really haven't done much afterwards. So
at
honestly,
least in Brian Cage's,
I will
yeah,
think that Jack Perry is going to win, and hopefully it can get him onto the path of eventually going after the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. But yeah, I think that we're going to see a new champion. I don't think Hook is going to be no longer your FTW champion. So we get onto the first blind eliminator tag match between Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia and Orange Cassidy and um, Darby Allin. and as it was kind of a big surprise. I thought Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin were going to get further, going to get to the finals. But I will say this now, even though, yes, Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia won, I still think, in some sense, that they're going to win the whole entire tournament. I just had that gut feeling that something's going to happen. And of course, we'll talk about the other match, but I really do think that Guevara and Garcia are going to win it all, go off July 29th, face off against FTR for the World Tag Team Championships. I don't think they're going to absolutely win them, but I think that they're going to be the ones that are going to face off against FTR for the World Tag Team titles and make Chris Jericho proud. Or I don't again, I don't think they're going to win them, but I think they're going to be your tournament winners. Um, but yeah, so with the help of Sir Strickland, because
Yeah, it's safe to say that they're uh, continuing to lead to a feud between Darby and Swerve, even though apparently they're trying to gear towards a match between Swerve and Keith Lee. You had your opportunity to have that match like months and months ago.
I know.
At this point, just drop that story.
I think that's what they're gonna do, and have it with Darby and Swerve, which is fine with me. I think it makes sense, and the reason why he got involved with that match, and then,
I mean, it makes more sense anyways for Darby to be
well,
the
also
feud
because
for
of
Swerve because of Nick Wayne.
yeah, and we'll talk about that, too. I think that Swerve Strickland and Nick, we'll talk about that match, but I think because of what happened, that Darby is going to want to go after Swerve Strickland and feud with him, and it's going to lead it to All In or All Out, depending. It could be in August or it could be early September. But ultimately, I think that Darby Allin is going to feud with Swerve Strickland here. Um, Swerve, you might have started the battle, but you're not going to win the war.
Yeah.
So we're going to get on to literally right afterwards.
The next blind eliminator.
Yes, we got Adam Cole and MJF against Big Bill and Brian Cage.
They're better than you, baby.
And we were really hoping we were gonna get those double clotheslines.
They were that close to hitting.
Yes, they were.
I feel like we're gonna get it tonight.
We might. I think that we
if it
will.
doesn't happen tonight, then you kind of.
And let me tell you something here. Yes, Adam Cole and MJF won. But something tells me that Roderick Strong is going to be the reason why Adam Cole and MJF do not win tonight. That's why I was saying it. That Garcia and Guevara are going to be your tournament winners. Because it sets up the match at All In London, because that's the bigger event. And you got to have a great world title match.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, I think that you're gonna get the opportunity for CM Punk to possibly get his title back at All Out.
So now that we know that All In is going to be on Bleacher Report as a pay-per-view, that doesn't really give a lot of time to build for All Out, which is literally like the week after.
Mm-hmm.
How are you gonna cram a build like that into 2 pay-per-views? How are you gonna build towards 2 pay-per-views? You'd essentially have to.
I mean, you got all of the rest of this month. You got most of August. So I think that Tony Khan's got some plans up his sleeve to make it happen. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think you're going to see half the card in All In and half the card All Out.
Unless he just double books, which, if you ask me, I don't think that's a smart idea.
I mean, at least they got some time between it's a week after, so I mean they do have some time, and then a lot of those wrestlers don't absolutely have to compete on the regular shows and then get ready for All Out. So who knows? Personally, I think
Hmm.
Adam Cole and MGF can
Yeah.
be on that hot streak, but Big Bill and Brian Cage were really trying. Big Bill tried to keep on getting on with those choke slams. Brian Cage tried to get the F10, couldn't. But ultimately, Adam Cole and MGF get the victory off of Adam Cole dropping a boom
Yep.
to, I want to say Brian
Yeah,
Cage. The
he hit him
Brian
on Brian
Cage, he
Cage.
got the 1, 2, 3. So yes, they advanced to the finals of the Blind Eliminator Tag Tournament. NGSA says that they are really close to hitting the double clothesline, which I really do think that they are. Anna Cole says he never thought the tag team of him and MGF would ever work and would want to win the tournament and get a shot July 29th for the tag team titles, and says if they stay on the same page they have been on, they will be World Tag Team Champions because they are better than you, baby. Could they be your next tag team champions? If I'm wrong about what I am doing, I think that something's going to happen in that tag match. They could possibly win the Eliminator, get to Collision, and then get something happens in that World Tag Team match that leads to the downfall, that leads into the All In match in London, Wembley Stadium, in front of 75,000, 74, 75,000 fans. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
I mean, we're getting a lot closer to the day of the show. I think it's gonna sell out.
I
I
it
really
could.
think All In is gonna sell out.
It very well could, and if it does, that would be
That's a commercial success for
right.
AEW
No, I mean,
if when they sell
yeah,
out Wembley.
yeah, and it already is it's a commercial success, and that's great. That
The fact that they sold 75,000 seats should tell you enough just how much success AEW has seen in the past well, technically 5 calendar years, but 4 years that it's been a
right,
company.
yeah, and I will say that Collision has been absolutely a success in the 5 weeks that it's been on the air,
There's more wrestling on Collision than there is on Dynamite, which is
and
weird, but
yes, that's sad, but hey, you know what? The Dynamite is still gonna be the bigger show to watch every single week.
I mean, yeah, it's still enjoyable,
Yeah.
but as of late, it seems like they've been more segment heavy, which, I mean,
Well, they have their good weeks and they have their bad weeks when
yeah,
it comes to that, and that's
yeah,
understandable. I mean, you also had to build into more stories heading into the pay-per-views that are going to be happening
right.
in August and also early September.
And
So,
then, Rampage is Rampage, so.
right, exactly.
And Ring of Honor is Ring of Honor. Much like Dynamite, it has its good weeks and its bad weeks. Um,
So, yes, we get on to our next segment here is Jake Hager wants to know what Chris Jericho's next move will be because it is his future on the line as well as his, as he gives Jericho his purple hat. What does this mean? Probably signifies until I know your answer, I'm out of the JAS.
yeah, and it's even more sad when you realize that that was Jake Hager's hat, man. He loved that
Yeah,
hat.
he loved that hat. He even stated on Twitter and social media multiple times he loves that hat, and even on AEW television that he loves his hat. Yeah, it made him a little bit of a sports entertainer, but that's what the whole thing was with the JAS. They were sports entertainers, even
Yeah.
though you're in a pro wrestling company.
He
Um,
even went so far as to take it to a restaurant with his shirt off and his hat on to say that he loved his hat.
yeah, so ultimately, I think that's what it means. I think it means that he's ultimately out of the JAS, as it is just breaking down one piece by piece. It's just going to be no more. I mean, Anna JAS is kind of not hardly around. Ty Mello is, out pregnant. Um, Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia are in the tag team. Chris Jericho is involved with Don Callis. So ultimately, it's breaking down one by one, and then Jake Hager is kind of just saying like, hey, I need to know what's going on because, are you really considering joining Don Callis? And Chris Jericho, doesn't exactly know. I assume that answer is going to be later tonight. We're going to hear from Don Callis and Chris Jericho to see if he is really going to join the Don Callis family. Well, maybe not because there's blood and guts, but very soon I think we're going to get that answer. Um, so we got to the next match. It's Ruby Soho and Sky Blue. I will say, as somebody that has stated, and we both stated
Yeah,
that maybe Sky Blue was going to win it all, I am honestly shocked that
we're
she
both
didn't
shocked. That
win this match against Ruby Soho to advance to the finals. I really thought that Sky Blue, with everything that was leading into that match, that she was the heavy favorite. But I will say the actual winner deserves it a lot. I think that she is a crowd hero, and I think that she is really shaping up the that you know maybe she has wasn't super great, but
yeah,
with more and more matches underneath her belt, she is really showing that she is one hell of a competitor in
it
a ring.
it is definitely without giving too much away. It was definitely a rebound that she needed.
Oh yeah, I agree.
So,
And yeah,
and we'll get into like what I'm talking about when it comes to the rebound.
mm,
So,
um, so we got into our next match. Man, what a hell of a debut! Even though he
yeah,
did lose for Nick Wayne,
yeah,
that man can wrestle. That kid did kind of get out wrestled by Swerve Strickland.
it's the
Mentor
experience factor,
mentor beating the student here. If you know
but
anything about Nick Wayne, he was wrestling for what Defy Wrestling,
yeah,
and that is Swerve Strickland's promotion
not to
itself.
mention he also had a showcase match at Ric Flair's last match that whole event.
What Nick Wayne did?
Yes,
Hmm.
and it wasn't until I was actually like rewatching that show that I realized like, oh hey, like yeah, I've heard so much about him and yet I've never seen a match of his and now here he is like, oh, this is Nick Wayne. Like this is that kid. At the time I think he was 17. He was either 16 or 17 at that time and now he's 8. Like that's the crazier thing about it is I think he's been wrestling professionally like on the indies and making his name for the past like 2 years. Now here he is in a big company like AEW getting to show his talent,
Right.
getting to showcase his craft.
Yeah, it just it's kind of crazy because you want a kid like that to be able to be showcased as a big guy going forward.
Well, I
And it
mean,
does suck that he lost to Swerve Strickland. I
that's
mean,
your future.
that is yes, exactly. It
Him
is
and
your
Billy
future.
Starks.
Yes. Um, I think with more matches underneath his belt, he'll be able to like feel comfortable in that AEW ring and in
Yeah,
front of the fans and stuff like that. Because I will say this now, as much as I know that he is younger than Swerve Strickland is, he got out wrestled, outmanned, and outgunned in that match, and it showed. It
yeah.
really did. Because like he just looked like he was just you know
But I think the more important thing from that match is the fact that it helped establish a connection for Nick Wayne with the AEW fans.
yeah, I will say. Because you already got people chanting your name, and you're barely even wrestling in that match,
Yeah,
which is crazy. I mean, um,
when you have the fans that already know who you are before you even make your debut match for AEW, that shows just how like you know he's still got to get over,
mhm,
but like just the fact alone that like he already has the fans chanting him, like he's pretty much over with the
right.
fans.
But yeah, you could definitely tell that Nick Wayne just got Swerve Strickland. Was showcasing why he's truly the veteran
Yeah,
in this match, and just mop the floor with Nick Wayne. I hate to say that about Nick Wayne, I really do, because I think that he can be somebody that can get more opportunities and look good against great talent and stuff like that. It just, you know, I mean, just it takes time. It really does. In his case, I think with more wrestling matches underneath his belt, he'll look good. I mean, for God's sake, look at Willow Nightingale.
Yeah,
I mean, when she first entered, she was looking green as hell. Now look where she is. She's
yeah,
getting opportunity after opportunity. Was a former NJPW strong women's
yeah.
champion. She won the Owen Hart tournament. We'll talk about
Spoiler
that. I
alert.
know.
Yeah,
And now
and
she's facing off against Athena
yeah.
at ROH's Death Before Dishonor, by
Which
the way.
also by the way, that was who she beat in the Owen Hart
Hmm.
semifinal to advance
Yeah.
to the
To
final to
face
take
off
on
against Ruby
Ruby
Soho.
Soho.
Yes. Which that match was supposed to happen on uh, Dynamite. I think it was supposed to happen in the last week, but it
Oh
ended up
yeah,
happening on, or the week before,
yes, but it ultimately didn't happen
but
because
Ruby,
Willow was undergoing some
yes.
sort of injury.
And I know, fortunately, that video did not do super great, but go ahead and watch that. We talk about it, that she was not medically cleared to face off in that match, um, but got to wrestle on Rampage. Of course, we don't talk about Rampage, but yes, she did beat Athena on Rampage to get to face Ruby Soho on
Yeah,
Collision. So, man, it's crazy. We get to find out. We found out the fifth members of both team. Pac kind of surprisingly coming down and returning, and hits Omega with the chair in the back of the head, which
which
by
is
the
now
way is
banned.
now banned in AEW. We cannot do that anymore. But
Neither can you do an unprotected chair shot to the face, to the head.
yes, so he joins the BCC, and there was a picture going around that I saw on Facebook that he's been an elite hater since the beginning, with Hangman, the Young Bucks, and
It
then
makes
Kenny
sense.
Omega, and
Yes,
now he joins the BCC.
it makes sense because Kenny or Pac was Kenny Omega's like first real feud in AEW,
And Omega was also the same
and
one that
then
broke, I think,
yes,
Pac's nose
yes,
too. So it all kind of it's long time storytelling fans.
all, but
It's
even but
connecting.
uh, even more than that, somebody had mentioned on Twitter that Pac makes sense also because not only has he bled with the BCC, but he's also natively from Blackpool. So,
Yeah, but if you look at all the members, he's like the only one of the five that actually is. So I mean,
I mean, when you still had Regal as like the culprit, it made sense.
I
But,
know
you
he
know,
wanted to go back to WWE, and I tell you, I don't know why he did decided to when he's not even in charge of NXT or anything like
I
that.
think he wanted to ultimately go back and be the talent scout, which,
Fair enough. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Golden Elite are back as
yeah,
Kota Ibushi joins the Elite as their fifth member at Blood and Guts. Thoughts? This is going to be one hell of a match. This is going to be. I hope this is the main event of Blood and Guts.
it
And
better be.
TD Garden, they're
Yeah,
making their Boston, Massachusetts debut in the legendary TD Garden, which Marty and I have been there.
yeah.
It's a great place to have for Blood and Guts. It's going to be a legendary event. That Boston crowd is going to be into it all night. There,
Well, I just thought about this too. Boston's getting a treat because not only did they host Survivor Series War Games back in November, but now they're getting more War Games,
yes, actual
traditional War
traditional
Games
war games.
with a roof.
Hmm.
So
Usually, I think WWE's is like what, four
yeah,
on
it's just
four.
um yeah.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
it's
say this
four
is
and four,
traditional five on
and it's
five.
only like it has the two rings and everything, but it's only like just two cages. There's like no roof, and it's a stupid rule of like, oh, if you happen to like get out of the cage or like are bumped out of the cage, then like
For eliminated.
I don't know necessarily that you're eliminated, but like there's like a um, penalty or something like
Um,
that where like you have to like wait a few minutes to like get back in. At least I'm pretty sure that's the rule. It's kind of stupid. I'm just looking at it as I was like, why don't you just have a roof?
I don't know, but yes, Pac and Kota Ibushi joined the most brutalist match in AEW history, the blood and guts match. This is going to be brutal. This is going to be bloody. This is going to be mayhem, and it's probably going to be like a 45-minute match.
If not longer. But also
Because I think,
crazy to think too that we get Ibushi versus Takeshita in an AEW ring.
that is crazy. I'm pretty sure this match has always had like a 60-minute time limit or something like that, or
Has it?
something, or maybe 20. I don't know. It's
No, it couldn't have been
or
20
maybe
because
30. I think it's like a 30-minute time
I
limit
didn't
for
even
this
think it was
match,
30. I think you're right. I think it was 60.
something
I
like
think it
that.
was a
But either
wow.
way, it's gonna be one crazy match. It's gonna be brutal. It's gonna be bloody. It's gonna be probably the this is gonna be a fight.
Yeah,
And I don't know if this is going to exactly end this rivalry between the Elite and BCC, but if it
I doubt
does,
it.
it is one way to end that rivalry.
I'm
Blood and
thinking about this
guts.
now. I think yeah, it would have to be an hour because you got to give time for um because like how the match starts, you have the one member and then you still have like that countdown
Mm,
before one member comes in and they have the advantage, and then the other person
yeah, I don't
comes
think
in to
there's gonna
even
be
the odds until we
right.
get 5 on 5, and then the actual match starts. So
Yeah, I think it's gonna be your main event because I mean you got the blind eliminator tag match, you
yeah,
have the FTW championship, and then you have that one. So I think those are gonna be typically your only matches that you're gonna have on the night, and maybe have some filler there
I was
too.
gonna say
So
they'd have to have filler because
so
you figure 20 minutes give or take for like both matches before Blood and Guts. That's only 40 minutes of wrestling, and then we're not even counting like potential commercial time or
right,
whatever. There
but
might be a segment or two, and then we get Blood and Guts,
yeah, I
which
think
they're
this
gonna
is.
give that match like all the time in
Oh
the
yeah, of
world.
course there are. I mean that's what you build that night up for is Blood and Guts in Boston,
Yeah,
Massachusetts. This is that pay-per-view type feel event. This is like live pay-per-view for this is like a
it's
pay-per-view that
like
you
a
get
free
for
per view.
yes, for free. You used to have like Fighter Fest
Yep.
and Fight for the Fallen, but now it's just Blood and Guts that you get.
Yeah.
Um,
It does kind of suck though that we're not getting Fight for the Fallen and Fighter Fest again, but I mean,
right. But we get onto the collision side of things,
yeah.
and they started off with the 60-minute time limit for FTR and Bullet Club, but it did not go the full length of 60.
It
It went
almost did.
58 minutes. What
Yeah.
an instant classic of a 2 out of 3 falls match between these two tag teams. Bullet Club Gold and FTR put on one instant classic of a match on in front of that Calgary crowd.
You know you've impressed people when even Dave Meltzer himself said that that was the best tag team match he has seen on American television.
Both of these matches that they had were great. Like I said, Bullet Club, yes, they got the opportunity to face off against them for the tag team titles, but ultimately FTR deserved to retain the titles. Bullet Club Gold, I think, will eventually get their time, but they still have those trios tag team titles that could potentially go off against. Of course, we'll talk about those titles too, but Man, FTR and Bullet Club Gold. What a great match. It sucks they couldn't have been on the belts, but we got ourselves an instant classic on Collision that really got the fans into it, chanting, "This is awesome, fight forever." Um, we hope that, maybe Jay White and Dax Harwood are okay. They kind of took a little bit of
Yeah,
tumble. And
yeah.
then Juice Robinson and Cash Wheeler also took a little bit of a tumble outside, but I think they were
I mean,
better.
either way, that match
Okay,
took a lot out of all four
yeah,
men.
they did. Yes, it did. Um, the first fall was the Blade Runner from Jay
Yep.
White in favor of Bullet Club Gold. Second fall was a Shatter Machine from FTR, and the third fall was the submission of
Oh
the
yes, the sharpshooter.
sharpshooter on Juice Robinson,
Yep.
tapped out, and FTR are still your World Tag Team Champions, but don't count out
They had to fight hard to keep those titles, though.
don't count out the other members of Bullet Club
Yeah.
Gold
The
and the
gun.
Gun Club. They could be the next ones in line. But then again, actually, well, technically, no. It's whoever wins the Blind Eliminator tag team match
Yeah.
that is next in line. But I think that the Gun Club are still one of those teams that are going to be in line for FTR as well. So we'll definitely happen to see. Of course, Guns Up,
Guns up.
even though they did not win, but FTR got it. Um, Yeah, we were talking about it here. Willow Nightingale does beat Ruby Soho. Ruby Soho was trying as much as she could to,
Yeah.
use that green spray can to get the advantage against Willow Nightingale. But yet again, Ruby Soho loses again in the finals. Um, Congratulations to Willow Nightingale to winning the Women's Owen Hart Foundation tournament.
Well, I
Um,
mean, and that kind of leads me to ask, what what now? What now with Ruby Soho? You've had her lose like multiple different it's kind of like Taya Valkyrie. Like you've had her lose multiple different uh championship opportunities
of course, we'll
because
talk about that too.
yeah, but like in terms of Ruby Soho, um she lost the her inaugural women's world title shot against Britt Baker. Then she lost the finals of the TBS Championship Tournament to crown the inaugural champion against Jade
Yep,
Cargill.
and then she lost
Then she lost the Owen Hart Tournament last year to
against Britt
Britt
Baker.
Baker. And then,
Lost this year to Willow Nightingale.
well, before that, she was in that triple threat match between Tony Storm, Jamie Hayter, and herself, and then she lost, but ultimately it helped form the Outcast. And then fast forward to now, she loses the Owen Hart tournament again in the finals. So it kind of leads you to
I mean, I guess
ask
it's
the
all
question of
right.
like, what the hell are they doing with Ruby
They're
Soho?
just having her as Tony Storm's, you know,
Lapdog.
lapdog because you got the Outcast, Saraya, and Tony Storm and Ruby
Yeah, but
Soho.
like, I mean, ultimately, if you ask me, you have like because Ruby Soho is getting up there
Uh huh.
in age, at
Right.
least as far as I know. Um, and even more so, like she's been wrestling for years
Right.
on the independent scene and in WWE before coming to AEW. So, like, the biggest mistake that WWE made was not putting a title on her. And it kind of leads me to ask, it's like, what are they doing with Ruby Soho at this point? Like, are they. And honestly, I feel as though they need to give Ruby Soho a championship before she ultimately retires.
Yeah, I mean,
Whenever the hell that is, that might even be like 10 freaking years from now.
it could.
But I mean, like, my point still stands. It's like ultimately, well, not to mention you got to factor in the contract too. She may or may not re sign a negotiation with AEW to stay in the company. And if that happens, then she has never won even a TBS title or a world championship
Hmm.
in AEW. And at
Right.
that point, it's like you had multiple opportunities with Ruby Soho to win a women's title, and it never fucking happened. So it's like,
Who knows? I
you know,
mean, but
not to rant or anything, but
right. I know. It does suck that she lost, and you really ask like what she's really, what are they really doing with her? Honestly, not a whole lot, but again, I mean, she's with the Outcasts, and she's just gonna be helping out Tony Storm as much as possible to retain that um, women's world championship. So until otherwise, yeah. So we got into our next match. Kings of the Black Throne beat a local tag team, but then Andrade comes out and tries to create a distraction, but unfortunately it doesn't pan out. And then he wants his mask back. Personally, eventually that's what's going to lead to is Andrade and getting involved with the House of Black to get his black mask back. But possibly Saturday, possibly some other time. But I think that it's going to be happening soon that he's going to get that mask back. And then we get on to our main event
a
as
collision.
Ricky Starks faces off against CM Punk to determine who wins the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. Um, CM Punk is trying as much as he can. Um, I should also have stated in that tag team match that it was Jay White that was doing the whole Bret Hart
Oh yeah, he did the Bret Hart thing. Yeah.
thing in front of the Calgary crowd. But Ricky, CM Punk got mixed reactions. He got some cheers, he got some boos. It was like 50-50
It's
for
almost like
him.
the crowd reaction he got from Toronto.
Yeah, it just he's not gonna be a big fan of.
I was gonna say I don't think I think certain markets in Canada love him, and then certain markets in Canada just are kind of split on him. So
Yeah,
it is what it is.
especially with the one side that you could see if you're watching, if you end up watching Collision.
Crying man child punk.
Yep, crying man child Phil.
Oh yes, yeah, that's
So
crying man
but
child.
congratulations to Ricky Starks. I guess
Yeah,
now he's officially amounting to something with winning the tournament.
after dropping the FTW title, yeah,
So yes, he officially wins the men's Owen Hart tournament with a hand on the rope too.
yeah, yeah.
Um, rolls him over and then holds on to the rope. 1, 2, 3, beats CM Punk. CM Punk is shell shocked from heading into Collision into Battle of the Belts.
But even more
Because he
importantly than
knows that and more importantly,
yeah,
Jushin Thunder Liger was trying to hand the
was
trophy
going to
over to,
present the trophy to him.
and he just
Ricky
snatches
Starks
it
just snatched it out of his
out
hand,
of his hand.
and Jushin Liger was looking for the handshake. Ricky Starks just walks to the back, and Liger's just sitting there like, what the hell did I do to deserve this? I literally flew here to Canada. What did I do to deserve this?
And then he bows and thanks the fans and leaves.
That's just a
Um,
that's just a really shitty rib to pull on Jushin Thunder Liger.
yeah, I kind of happen to agree there. Like, come on now, Tony Khan. Like, is that the best? Oh, and also,
He's a freaking legend, and that's how you treat
speaking
him.
of it, I know that we're recording on Tuesday, but happy birthday to Chad Khan. Shad Khan.
Shad Khan.
Shad
Yes.
Khan. Yes. Happy birthday to him, Daddy Khan.
Daddy Khan.
Yes.
Scissor me, Daddy Khan. Oh, wait. No.
um, but this one was an interesting one. Orange Cassidy and Lance Archer. Lance Archer was very well just
Oh, he was
throwing.
manhandling Orange
Yes,
Cassidy for the entire
manhandling Orange
match.
Cassidy the whole entire match, but ultimately
But somehow, some way,
beats him
Orange
via
Cassidy
count out.
Squeezed
guess
out that win, no pun
I
intended.
guess somehow in a way this is to help Lance Archer not look weak in a sense because he didn't win.
But
Orange Cassidy didn't win clean. He had
you
a
got to look at the bigger story too. Orange Cassidy barely uh is now barely flying by with
that's
with
true.
keeping his
That's why I'm
championship.
saying
It's like
truly
they're just stacking the odds against
the
him, and he's
question that
barely
really
squeezing out a
has to be
win.
asked: how long is it going to take for Orange Cassidy before he loses that international championship? Because
And if and when he loses,
uh,
where does he go? Like, where on the card does he
I
go?
would
Does
think
he go back down to like the lower mid card, kind of like jobber status,
I think he
or does
goes
he
up.
excel in the main event?
I think he excels to the main event, to be honest with you. But also in this match, Lance Archer, I think chokeslammed him past the one part and through the table
Yeah,
itself,
yes.
which I did not realize that there was just a random table there. That was kind of odd. Like they just like, oh yeah, let's just pop a table because he's gonna use it in this match, and then he just throws him in that little corner. And I'm thinking in my mind, is like, there's a table there?
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
But
Random placement of a table.
yeah, so yes, that's ultimately what led to I think the count out. Orange Cassidy with a very deadly leg strikes to Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake the Snake Roberts
Those
wanted the
were banned, Orange Cassidy. What are you doing, man? You're gonna break that. You're gonna break Jake the Snake Roberts' legs if you keep doing that. You're gonna break people's legs if you keep doing that. You can't be doing that.
well,
Same thing with your chops, man. They're gonna light up somebody's chest.
yes,
You got
exactly.
Tony Khan told you to tone it down for a reason, Orange Cassidy.
But
Can't be doing that.
yeah, and then ultimately too Jake the Snake Roberts was trying to do his signature DDT, but couldn't. And then Orange Cassidy kicks Lance down. He does the whole and then DDT
Yeah.
right in front of Jake the Snake Roberts. But yes, ultimately after
You know,
everything,
it makes me wonder why we haven't seen Orange Cassidy's Canadian Destroyer in AEW yet. Probably
who
because
knows?
it's probably because it's too brutal for live television.
Probably.
If
Um,
anybody hasn't seen Orange Cassidy's Canadian Destroyer, I implore you to look it up on YouTube. It is the most brutal thing you will ever witness.
the Acclaim say they will beat QTV's ass and will get their rematch Saturday for the World Trio Tag Team titles. Thoughts? Can they finally win the belts? I think so.
It would
I
be nice,
I think
man.
that's ultimately the goal is that they're gonna win the AEW World Trios Tag Team titles. It's
I
kind of
mean, yeah,
it
because
kind of needs
House
to
of
be done.
Black.
House of Black have not done anything with those
Well,
titles
I look at it
as
this
of late.
way: House of Black has had their time with the titles. I think it's time to freshen it up, give it to somebody new.
Yeah,
You
I think
know.
so too. Plus, they haven't really even defended them
Well,
lately either. So
and not to mention, it's like they kind of are showcasing more of like the duos tag teams right now than they are the trios
yeah,
tag teams in AEW, which is kind of sad because like, and I'm pretty sure we've mentioned it on this show. It's like, oh well, we were worried about the introduction of the trio tag team titles that like, oh, they're gonna utilize those more and showcase more of like there's gonna be more like makeshift trios in AEW than there are going to be actual like tag teams,
right.
but it's the complete opposite right now in AEW. There's a lot more tag teams right now that are hungry and vying for those tag team championships from FTR than there are trios trying to challenge the House of Black. And it's like, don't forget about your trios titles, man.
Of course, you don't want to at all. But yeah, I think the Acclaim and Daddy
But
Ads are
yeah,
gonna
also
get
to your
those.
point, it's like the House of Black has barely even defended those. Like, whatever happened to the open house rules? Like, that was cool. And now it's like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. It's like, why?
Well, because there's two involved with Andrade, so what if Andrade somehow gets involved and leads to them losing the tag titles in that match? I could see that,
Yeah, yeah.
and helps Claim and Daddy Ass win. That could happen too. So yes, we get into the next match. This one wasn't exactly like yay,
It wasn't a
of
real
a
like eye opener.
of
Yeah,
a match, but yes, Tony Storm does beat Taya Valkyrie to retain the
and
Women's
this is
World
what I'm talking
Championship
about. Like,
with the help of Ruby Soho.
and this is what I'm talking about with Taya Valkyrie. It's like at this point, this is her third opportunity to challenge for a championship in AEW, and she's lost. What are you doing with Taya Valkyrie?
I don't know. Who knows?
You literally like, and that's another thing too is like you brought her in as like this credible threat to
Hmm.
Jade Cargill's title reign
Right.
because of her previous body of work. She was the longest reigning knockout world champion in Impact Wrestling history. She was also the longest reigning Reina de Reinas champion in AAA history, and she's the current MLW Women's, I believe, featherweight Open champion,
Hmm.
or whatever it is that. Either way, she holds a title in MLW. She's the inaugural, and she's still like
Right.
not to mention she also is holding the Reina de Reinas title. So it's like she's basically trying to be a belt collector, and you thought that that was going to happen with the TBS title, but then it didn't. And then she fought Jade at Double or Nothing and lost, which ultimately brought in Chris Statlander
Right.
to dethrone, and then that led to like, hey, like you stole a title from me. I want your, I want a match against you, and then she didn't beat Chris, so it's like okay, and then they announced that match for Battle of the Belts between Taya and Tony, and she lost. It's like okay,
I
so
know.
what are you do? Like she's like I feel like the role that they've given Taya right now is like, oh, she's ultimately like a chaser, and like she's a good chaser for championships. But it's like that should like the end goal for Taya should ultimately be like once the chase ends, she becomes champion. Not that like oh once the chase ends, like that's it. She'll
Right.
always be a chaser. It's like no, she should not always be a chaser. Like once the chase ends, she grabs the title. But
True. And then we got into our main event.
which
Um
is weird that I mean, granted, it had to take like this long for the TNT title to once again main event a show in AEW, but
hmm
here we are.
Yeah. And then Sean Spears has an identity
Yeah,
crisis
he has
as
that
he
man has
shows
an
up as
identity crisis.
the chairman this
1 week he's
time,
the perfect
and
10,
then
1 week
has
he's the chairman.
yeah, and then he has white color contacts, and faces off against Luchasaurus as the chairman instead of the perfect 10. And well, with everything, as much as Sean Spears was trying and trying, Luchasaurus does happen to retain the TNT Championship on the main event. It's sad. Um, because
But yet
Christian
Christian
Cage,
Cage still is going around proclaiming that
yeah,
he's the
he's a
TNT
TNT
champion.
champion and was on Luchasaurus' shoulders again, holding up the championship, and he's been holding it onto it. I'm ready for um,
Luchasaurus to drop him.
Christian, yeah, that too. I'm looking forward to Luchasaurus just dropping Christian Cage off, saying you're holding the title, but you're not the champion, and then leading into like a match between them. I guess that could happen too. Christian Cage against Luchasaurus for the TNT Championship. That I can see happening. Um, maybe at like one of the pay-per-views.
Yeah. I just don't want that title to flip flop again.
I
Even though
I,
I know it's gonna freaking happen.
I don't either, but honestly, it is what it is at this point. It's just you know Still gonna have the international championship as that,
It's
top
sad that
title.
that's the better mid card title,
It is. And it's
but
because Orange Cassidy has just done such a great job as the champion. That's why.
yep,
But ultimately, this is going to conclude this episode of No Final Bell. Please make sure to follow us on social media at Tinkle Sports. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification for more because there's a lot of people that watch these videos are not really subscribed. Like, come on now, what's the problem with subscribing and hitting that bell notification? Um, that's how you'll get notified for our videos. Because fortunately, being subscribed does not mean anything unless you hit the bell notification to be notified when videos get dropped, so then you can watch our videos and our content.
yeah,
We would really appreciate it if you do. Um, we don't just have this show; we have Out of Turn 4 every Tuesday at 5. Um, we usually have this show every Wednesday at 5, unless we have other specials that happen with like go ahead and watch the Slammiversary special as well as this one. And Sunday Morning Tinkle will be coming back in the end of August, early September for the um, before the season special, talking about who we think we can win, who's going to be in the Super Bowl, and all that fun stuff. And recapping some off-season moves and who we think is going to, look good heading into the season, and then maybe some eyes on some fantasy players too. But again, thank you for um, thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye, everyone.